I didn't argue when the eviction notice slid across the table. I just pushed the 1923 water rights deed back, watched the color drain from their faces, and pictured 35 McMansions suddenly discovering they were lakefront, whether they liked it or not. Willowbrook Estates built their pristine cul-de-sacs on my grandfather's land while I was downrange, all tennis skirt patrols and golf carts pretending to be law. What they didn't clock: I'm Jake Morrison, Army Corps engineer, third-generation steward of 4-7 Texas Acres Pop Sport when Austin was barbecue smoke and long horizons. In '78 he raised a stout earth dam with Corps guidance to hold rain for cattle and ease dry spells downstream. That little dam taught me a language: how water remembers the old paths. Afghanistan sharpened it. Wells in dust, maps in my head, the way people will fight for a clean cup. Pops died on my second tour. My sister Sarah, kind and overwhelmed from California, put a management company on autopilot and never checked the tax assessment. Into that gap rolled Maggie Thornwell, HOA president, perfume over cigarette ghost, married to Councilman Rick with a smile sharp enough to cut paper. I came home expecting pasture light on the pond and found concrete trucks chewing my back 40. The foreman waved permits like a magic trick. Officer Martinez shuffled and said adverse possession. Then Maggie arrived in a golf cart with honeyed venom. Your family abandoned this land, honey. I walked the fence line and felt my stomach drop. The creek that fed Pops's dam had been diverted, water slipping away inch by inch. First lawyer quoted 85 grand just to swat at zoning. While he printed invoices, I hunted records like I used to hunt IED signatures. There it was, the original dam permits, federal fingerprints all over them, plus a buried 1923 deed granting my family senior rights to the entire Willow Creek watershed. Federal jurisdiction. Senior water. 2 anchors no HOA could wish away. Maggie ran to the cameras with trembling concern about dangerous dams, fed the neighborhood app with rumors about a troubled vet, and organized safety patrols who parked at my gate, writing down plates like they were guarding a border. I called Tony Riggs, an old buddy now in EPA enforcement, and learned the magic words: Clean Water Act. I set trail cams, took flow measurements, logged diversions with dates and photos. Meanwhile, the harassment piled up: wellness checks, citations for a porch older than half the city, a regulatory parade timed to fray the nerves. They wanted a siege. I gave them math. Floodplain maps showed their whole project parked on a 100-year floodplain. Insurance approvals leaned on a mitigation plan that pushed water onto me. Their workaround? Make my dam into decor. The smell of fresh concrete and the sight of a shrinking pond wrote the story in capital letters. I dug deeper and found Maggie's Houston past, an HOA fine for creek diversion and a quick exit to friendlier ground. I met my neighbors: Mrs. Chen's garden brown to the roots, Miguel Santos's farm rezoned into oblivion, a trail of small properties squeezed by the same playbook. I installed flow meters and ran volumes until the numbers sang: 1,200 gallons a day stolen, $4,000 to $7,000 a year in agricultural water. Letters arrived with eminent domain threats and lowball checks. Headlines painted me as the danger. But storm clouds were forming, and water loves a witness. I kept building the case while they kept playing victim. Tony confirmed the EPA had opened a file. Amanda Cross, a pro bono water rights attorney, joined me and pulled threads the way good lawyers do. She found insurance applications stuffed with lies: no seasonal flooding, permanent diversion approved, 4 to 7 million in coverage built on fiction. We uncovered Rick's fingerprints everywhere. Zoning fast tracks, investment stakes, no recusals. Texas Parks and Wildlife had documented a Guadalupe base die-off in Willow Creek. Somehow the report never reached federal hands. Pops's attic gave me his journals. Dates, flows, hand-drawn cross-sections, and a sentence that hit like a bell. Open spillway to help Santos and 3 others. That's what neighbors do. The dam's bones still remembered. At night, I tested the emergency spillway and heard water ghost through the old channels. A misfiled covenant surfaced at the courthouse. Operators shall maintain natural seasonal flow to preserve downstream agricultural rights, in perpetuity. Not permission, obligation. With heavy September rains forecast, the timing was technical as a firing table. The reservoir held 3.1 million gallons. 2.8 would re-establish the creek. I mapped the subdivision by drone. 5 houses sat in the historical flood channel like dominoes waiting on a breeze. 3 basements dipped below the seasonal high water mark. Their creek bed was decorative stone over concrete. Pretty, brittle, nothing you trust with real water. Then they poured permanent barriers to choke the original channel. That move made my choice simple and the justification cleaner. Amanda stacked filings, emergency agricultural water restoration motion, federal complaints, invitations to environmental reporters. Miguel gathered testimony dating to 1887. Mrs. Chen produced sepia photos of a garden fed by the same creek. The Audubon folks perked up at lost nesting grounds. The banks started sweating when Amanda's contacts questioned loans that required guaranteed water access. Meanwhile, Maggie escalated. Private security at night with tactical cosplay and a sack of Kwikset for my hydraulics. Deputy Rodriguez, tipped by Tony, met them at 2 in the morning. I cleared sabotage with a jackhammer while cameras watched. Grit in my teeth, fury in my hands. Rick shopped for a friendly judge and found Walsh, a golf buddy with campaign money traced to Rick's company. We filed for his recusal anyway. Maggie staged concerned mothers at my fence line, the hashtag churning. I built the plan like I'd build a bridge under fire, phased spillway opening, safety calls to the volunteer fire department, posted notices in English and Spanish, reporters on site, federal eyes on the gauges. Evidence packaged, backups of backups, radios checked. Pops's mechanisms hummed under WD-40 and prayer. The weather window opened. The EPA moved their visit up on sabotage reports. Maggie tried one last play, call in a wellness hold for the unstable vet. I talked the social worker through competence while checking gaskets. Sarah called, fear in her voice, but the journals were on the table, and the math was done. You don't weaponize water when you're restoring its memory. You guide it home. When the sun edged up and the federal windbreakers stepped onto the concrete, I turned the wheel to 25% and listened. Not a roar, an exhale. Willow Creek found its old spine immediately, sliding past the illegal barriers, curving where cottonwoods once leaned. Miguel knelt and cupped the flow like he was greeting an ancestor. Mrs. Chen's irrigation line sputtered, then sang. Helicopters thumped overhead. Maggie screamed into a live feed about a veteran attacking families. But the cameras caught a different truth. Water inside its natural banks, no homes breached, a subdivision designed against the grain of the land. EPA agent Kim read the flow and nodded, historical seasonal patterns to the decimal. Tony logged measurements and timestamps. Some of the HOA faithful folded their signs and drifted away when the catastrophe refused to show up on cue. Rick tried a concrete truck stunt to accidentally spill across the channel. The drivers ended up in cuffs for interfering with a federal investigation. Insurance regulators froze policies. Construction halted. City Councilman Martinez called for Rick's resignation on camera. In the clearest moment of the morning, Maggie shouted, "You've destroyed everything. 35 families." I answered so everyone could hear, "No, I restored everything. By water rights like everyone else." By afternoon, Judge Walsh's courtroom was packed to the rafters, cameras wedged between seed caps and pearl earrings. Maggie arrived with a law firm's worth of suits and a TV-ready psychiatrist who'd never met me. Their story was thunder. Deranged vet using military training to weaponize water. Amanda's reply was lightning. Pops's covenant, the federal permits, Agent Kim's testimony that the spillway operation restored natural flows without property damage. Photos layered across decades showed the creek's rightful course. Tony detailed violations, 3 federal environmental laws, insurance fraud, habitat destruction. Walsh shifted in his chair like his collar had shrunk. Amanda called Rick. Under oath, he admitted to fast-tracked zoning while I was deployed and to his investment in the development. Then she played a recorded call, Texas is one-party consent, where Rick fumed about destroying property values and campaign contributions. He erupted, which never helps a man under oath. Miguel told the court about his grandfather and water that kept a farm alive. Mrs. Chen lifted a photo of her garden green as summer before the diversion and brown as bone after. Fire Chief Martinez testified the spillway operation hit every safety mark. The room changed temperature. Walsh denied the restraining orders, affirmed the legality and benefit of the restoration, and ordered the HOA to stop interfering with the federal investigation. Outside, bank investigators served papers. Federal agents walked Rick past microphones. Maggie sped away from questions in a white SUV. The crowd that met us on the steps wasn't angry anymore. They were relieved. Amanda announced a widening federal probe. I said my piece. This wasn't revenge. It was service to land, law, and neighbors. Half a year later, the water told the epilogue better than any judge. Rick took a federal plea, 3 years. Maggie cratered under civil penalties and bankruptcy. The construction company paid EPA fines and got blacklisted from federal work. The HOA dissolved. A new association formed around stewardship instead of theater. With the watershed under federal designation, my land's value rebounded past the highest appraisal they once waved like a carrot. The insurance fraud settlement went to something that felt right. Buying Miguel's farm at tax auction and handing him the deed clean. The creek drew kayaks and binoculars where model homes were supposed to rise. Mrs. Chen's plot turned demonstration garden. Downstream farms reported their best yields in a decade. The diner became the Willow Creek Restoration Association's unofficial HQ, where ranchers and birders planned the next defense against theft dressed up as progress. Guadalupe Base returned. 12 bird species nested again. Parks and Wildlife called the corridor critical and put ink to protection. The Corps turned our operation into a case study. I rebuilt the farmhouse with sustainable materials, and Sarah came home to help run the agritourism venture we didn't know we wanted. Amanda and I kept working cases together until work became life. The ripple carried farther than county lines. Other towns used the model. federal agencies tightened guidance, and my phone started ringing with folks staring down the same dirty tricks. We launched the Pops Morrison Environmental Scholarship. Miguel's daughter, Maria, is at UT learning the craft of keeping water honest. Creek Days became a festival, tents, music, booths on soil health and veteran services, kids splashing where blueprints once promised garages. Every Sunday I take a mason jar to Pops and pour a little on the grass, because that's how he checked flow. With his hands, with his eyes, with his heart. The Conservation Trust now holds the watershed's development rights, a permanent buffer against the next shiny plan. Our case fed a federal RICO action in Houston. Families across 3 states filed suits to restore their creeks. From my porch, the lesson stays simple. Some fights ask everything because what's at stake is everything. Memory, neighbors, the way a place breathes. If you're staring at an HOA with a friendly judge and a thirst for your water, document like a scientist, gather like a church, and move like a river, deliberate, persistent, carving stone by returning to what's true. Your voice matters. Your vote matters. Your creek matters. Tell me your stories. I'll read them, learn from them, and keep showing how gravity and good paper beat bluster and golf course politics. Next time, I'll tell you about the city that tried to take my neighbor's solar farm, and how she dimmed the mayor's reception with one elegant flip of a breaker. Water finds a way. So does justice. And communities that hold the line, together, don't just win, they last.